Hello and welcome to GreenFleet Talks. My name's Kate Armitage and I'm your host for our discussion today. I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Gallagher, EV Partnerships Manager at Centrica. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kate.
Good to speak to you again. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. Hope you're well too.
I am very well, good. So today, Mark, you and I are going to be discussing where best to charge an EV and how best to control infrastructure costs. But before we dive into that nitty-gritty topic, the cost of electric vehicles is also often cited as a barrier to electric vehicle adoption. What advice would you give to fleet operators who are concerned about this?
And it's a very valid question, Kate. I think we still see a real disparity in the cost of an EV versus a combustion engine vehicle. And that based on the old choice lists where there was around kind of P11D value or a monthly rental amount or a monthly lease amount, they don't quite stack up. So one of the things that we've done and I would encourage other businesses to do is to consider a whole life cost model. You'll often see that abbreviated or acronym to WLC. Really, that is a way for a business to be able to monitor the in-life operational cost of a vehicle. So factoring in the lease cost, the running costs, as well as any prevailing tax burden that applies as well. It's a much fairer way. And actually, when you look at it in that way, through a whole life cost methodology, you start to see that actually EV stacks up very well against combustion engine vehicles. Yeah,
I agree with you, although I would also add that with the rising energy prices over the last 18 months or so, we've kind of seen some of that benefit eroded, and it really drives home how important it is to control your electricity costs or ideally have renewable energy or on-site renewables and that kind of thing. But the whole life cost or total cost of ownership is absolutely crucial to this whole puzzle, isn't it?
Absolutely. And a great point around rising energy costs as well, Kate. I think with the increase that we've seen over the last year and a half, that it's probably balanced that kind of differential between the running cost of an EV and a combustion engine vehicle. But if it's managed correctly, then the savings are still there to be gained.
I totally agree with you, Mark, and that this is the dark art, isn't it, of getting the best out of your electricity supply. But also the cost of petrol and diesel is erratic as well. So,
yes, very much so.
There are winners and losers both ways round as far as I can see it. And what advice would you give to fleets about assessing the best charging strategy for their operations?
I mean, I think the main thing is a business is to understand how the vehicle's going to be used so that they can get a feel for things like range requirement and expectation. Access to charging, I think, is a major way to drive down cost. One of the things that we would recommend very heavily within Centrica and through our Hive brand is to select and make available a home EV charger for everybody that can have one installed as part of your transition. For example, this week we have announced that for anybody who's buying a Hive EV charger at the moment and changing to a British Gas energy tariff, they can claim up to 1 year of free charging. And I know that there are other similar offers out in the market, but we believe our offer of up to a year's free charging is a great opportunity for businesses to be able to save significantly on their running costs. So absolutely, if you can identify any drivers who have the ability to have a home EV charger installed, then we would recommend supporting that. And that needs to be obviously underwritten by a robust reimbursement policy. So it's a key thing that the fleet managers need to reinforce that to drivers when they make the transition from combustion engined and fuel card scenario of old to an EV and charging at home or charging on road. They need to understand how the reimbursement policy will work, and really what we want to see, I hope, is that drivers are not put out of pocket by running an EV.
So, Mark, you've raised so many good points there. I mean, this ties back into great ways to get the best value out of your electricity supply, isn't it? But Absolutely. It's also what we understand from EV drivers, myself included, is charging from home is the most convenient. Charging overnight when the vehicle is just parked on the driveway and you're not going to need it for business is also not only the cheapest but also the lowest carbon electricity. So there's lots of great merits for home charging above and beyond the cost to the employer.
Very much so, Kate. You've hit the nail on the head in terms of your experience and knowledge of it. The reality is that as more and more people come to EV, overall demand on our grid is going to be a factor. So if we can do what we can now to encourage drivers to plug their car in to charge overnight, and you allow us to use the intelligence of our platform to schedule that charging across that period. If you're plugged in overnight, the car's not going or the van's not going anywhere. You don't necessarily need to get that charge delivered bang on midnight when you go onto your off-peak rate, and then sit there with a full battery for 4 hours while you're sleeping. Let us manage it through that period. We'll make sure that you've got your charge for the morning when you need it.
Great. And you said the magic words there. Let us manage this, because this is a whole new area for a lot of people. You need to have a smart charge point that has that enabled communications, but the ask isn't on the employee. You do everything. They simply need to plug the car in and tell you when they're going to need it in the morning, and you do the rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's how the business and or the employee can get the maximum benefit out of this arrangement.
Absolutely, and we've built the intelligence in our platform to ensure that we're driving the right behaviour for the charge. So it will be optimised to charge at the cheapest times. And in fact, with our new free charge proposition, we're actually saying to customers who turn the service on with us that we will give them up to a year of free charging using that facility. Beyond that year, they will go on to Smart Charge, which essentially is the same principle, and will give a discount on every kilowatt hour of energy for the period they're plugged in for. If it's over 6 hours, they'll get the best benefit from that.
Yeah. Okay. And you've mentioned that you have a Hive charge point, and that you need to have that to get the benefit of that tariff. But it is possible for you to work with existing charge points. You won't necessarily get that tariff benefit. Is that right?
That's correct. The free charge proposition that we've launched into the market is reliant on a Hive EV charger installed, and to be a British Gas Energy customer. Yeah. There is a third element, which is a smart meter. Now, we are saying to customers who aren't with British Gas, or indeed if they are with British Gas but don't have a smart meter, they can still opt in for the offer, and if they don't have that smart meter in place, we will go and install it free of charge for them.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the smart meter is crucial because it gives you that half hour granularity in terms of billing, doesn't it? Yeah, great. I mean, we could talk all day about this, Mark, because it is important, and it's really important for fleets to understand the benefits that charging at home can give. But I've got one other question for you, which is, what other ways can fleet operators reach net zero operations?
It's a great question, Kate. I think ultimately net zero is something that we are extremely focused on in Centrica, in British Gas, in Hive. I think the main thing really is I think with a nod to the Scope 3 requirement for emissions data capture. One of the main things that we are looking at as a business is really to ensure that we monitor, because if we monitor it, we can manage it. that's the bottom line for us. So it's capturing all of the emissions that are generated by any business related activity, including employees commuting to and from a fixed place of work. The other areas we're looking at are kind of leveraging our wider kind of propositions within carbon reduction. So obviously we have business interest in things like air source heat pumps, solar panels, for example, battery storage, hopefully in the not too distant future. All of these technologies can be leveraged to help businesses save money, and particularly when we start to think about businesses putting things like workplace charging in. Best thing, I think, ideal scenario would be to support that workplace charging by solar panels or additional battery storage for that power. Get the most out of the sun while it's available. Have battery storage to store some of that energy to use when it's not so sunny.
Yeah,
and start to use that to reduce the running costs of workplace charging schemes.
and starting to create a wider ecosystem around renewable energy. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's fundamental. I think if businesses can kind of leverage the benefits of things like solar and use storage to hold that power until it's needed, then that's going to really help to drive us towards net zero.
Yeah, I mean, and we are getting there. I mean, I've spoken to some fleet managers, and I've walked away and thought, crikey, they're energy managers, not fleet managers, because they've already got the solar PV, they've already got the battery storage, they understand how this is all going to work, and they're now thinking about vehicle to grid, which is another topic for another day. But
Indeed.
It's really exciting times, and it's great that you've got all these bits of the puzzle that you can add in to really help build this ecosystem.
Absolutely. I agree, Kate. It is really exciting at the moment, and so many things are starting to align and work together. And we're privileged at Centrica to be able to be involved across the whole spectrum. So we are, as I said before, very focused on net zero, and certainly EV is one piece of a large and probably quite complicated puzzle at the moment, but we're starting to get the pieces in place.
Great, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your insight today, Mark. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. And thank you, of course, to Centrica for joining GreenFleet Talks. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kate.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Please tune into GF365 again soon.